I need to know the penalty that these people have to pay for leaving early, as well as the bonus that they get if they make it to the altar, because baby, there is no way that these people are still together because they're oh so in love. No ma'am, let's talk about it.
Roxiie says we're gonna talk about it.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Roxiie with Roxiie Says, and we're going to talk about it. Today, we are reviewing Love is Blind Season 9, Episodes 8 and 9. And baby, how do we still have any couples left after what we... How are these people still to... You know what? Let's get into it. But before we do, please don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you are made aware every time I post a new video. And please don't forget to hype up the video, okay? Let's get right into it, y'all. So as episode 8 opens up, we see Nick and Annie discussing her acting like a complete fool. And she says that she was just being a bit emotional and passionate during this argument. And I felt like that was a complete cop-out. So I was really happy that Nick didn't let her slide. And he made sure that he was crystal clear about her behavior being unacceptable, and he was completely put off by it, okay? And as he's speaking, she starts talking over him, and she's like, yeah, it won't happen again. And Nick says, well, it can't happen again. He says it cannot happen again because it's very discouraging with me trying to be in this relationship with you. And all the time, Annie is just saying, oh my God, I love you so effing much. I never loved someone like this. I'm just so passionate because I just love you so much. And I was like, Annie girl, are you drunk? Are you drunk? Did you get some of what Nick had? Whatever it is, go sleep it off because you sound crazy, okay? And her repeating, I love you is so dismissive because instead of having that actual conversation, she's just saying, I love you. Like, forget what happened. Forget what I did. It won't happen again. I love you. It's all good, okay? But again, like I said, she's probably drunk, a little tipsy or something else. But ultimately, Annie does apologize and she says that she just needed a little moment once Nick told her that he was only on his way to being all the way in like she was. But Nick promises not to let his doubts control him in this experience, and he reassures Annie that he loves her craziness. And I'm like, Nick, something tells me that what we just witnessed isn't even her final form of crazy. Something tells me that. Like I said before, be careful messing around with Annie, all right? So next we see Joe and Madison discuss the conversations that they had with their parents, and both of them are equally shocked at how both sets of parents are extremely excited and supportive about this process. So Joe will be the first guy that Madison has ever introduced to her family, and Joe starts asking her questions. Why aren't you scared? Like, why aren't you nervous? Why aren't you worried? Because if you were, at least that would make it seem more human, like you're in this with me. How are you so sure about this? And I'm like, Joe, she doesn't have to be as scared as you are. She should be. She should be, but she doesn't have to be. But Madison explains that the reason why she's so chill is because she really came here to find love and get married. And honestly, out of all of these people, Madison is like the only person who I feel is genuinely here to find love and to get married. Right? Am I forgetting anyone? Yeah, I really only see Madison being here genuinely, okay? So it makes sense to me that Madison has already mentally prepared and thought out this entire process because she genuinely wants it. We know that Joe hasn't. And we also know that Joe doesn't really want to be with Madison either, right? So now her calmness makes him even more nervous because on top of him already being 100% disingenuous, now he's trying to transfer his negative energy over to Madison, and Madison has to ask him if he wants her to be afraid because he's going so hard in this conversation. So she says, yeah, she does have reservations sometimes, but it's only because of how Joe behaves, not because she's afraid of the process overall. So Joe says that he's trying to be in this, but it's really hard, and Madison calls him out for pretty much describing their entire experience so far in a mostly negative way. And of course, Madison is offended by this because she has fond memories of being with Joe. She's been enjoying her time with Joe for the most part. Yeah, they've had some miscommunications, they've had some issues, but she overall feels a good vibe by being with him. And I will say that the communication between these two is absolutely horrible. I don't see these two being able to have a conversation where they can come to some type of true resolve without the help of a third party. Like, I don't see it happening at all. Again, Joe looks like he's fighting his other personality inside him to not curse Madison out in this conversation. Madison sees that Joe is unserious about this whole thing, and she doesn't think that he's marriage-minded at all. And what does Joe do? Joe flips it and he says, well, fine. I'll just never ever tell you my feelings ever again. I'm trying to be honest with you and tell you how I feel, and I just won't say anything again. Y'all gotta get a new playbook. We know all the moves already. So manipulative, okay? So let me get this straight. Madison is in a great mood, super excited about the conversation that she just had with her parents about you, right? And instead of you being honest and speaking to her in a way with someone with a lick of emotional intelligence would, for example, hey babe, I love that you're so excited about this, but if I could be completely honest with you, I'm really nervous and scared about a lot of it. I'm here with you. I'm going to take it day by day, but I just want to let you know it is a bit nerve-wracking for me, right? I still think that response would have resulted in a tough conversation, but it would have been a better approach than, why aren't you nervous? Why are you so sure? That's so unhuman of you. That makes me feel like you're not really in this with me. I cannot stand Joe. I cannot stand Joe. Y'all got to make sure that you're able to catch when people do shit like that as well. You see how he tried to flip that on her when he's the one with the issue, but he can't communicate that. And now Madison is in tears as he tries to make it seem like, all I did was try to tell you my feelings. What's wrong with that? See, guys, that's why we can't tell women our true feelings. Bravo, Joe. Anyway, with the weddings in 20 days, we see Megan at Jordan's apartment. And I had assumed that he had a 1-bedroom since he didn't really want to say when Meg asked him. And he said, you'll see, right? But he does have a 1-bedroom, but the room is clearly for Luca. And it looks like Jordan sleeps on the pullout in the living room. I'm just happy that the room is for Luca. I remember I used to know someone and they got themselves a 1-bedroom apartment and they made the bedroom theirs and had their kids sleeping on the couch. We was all like, Anyway, we see that Jordan's place, it's quaint, it's simple, it's clean, and I have no doubt that it is Luca's favorite place in the world, okay? But I also think that Jordan did come on this show looking for a bit of help, right? I know times are tough, but I'm sure that ideally Jordan would prefer for both him and Luca to have their own room, right? So things just might be a little tight for him financially. I just want to know, what about his current situation made him look around and say, you know what I need? A wife. That's what I need. We're going to have to call a thing because I kind of get the vibe, Jordan, that you looking for a nanny, but a free nanny. And this one actually comes with a bag, right? And I also feel like Jordan knows that he shouldn't be bringing a wife into this. And that's why he didn't want to tell Meg his living situation, because he knows better. He knows better. Remember when Cameron brought Lauren to his home? Remember season 1 when Cameron brought Lauren over like, hey, this is what I'm ready to bring a wife into and to grow a family in? Just different energy. That man was ready and he was confident about his situation. There wasn't no, you'll find out later. There was none of that, okay? And Megan isn't rude at all. She compliments his place, but she tells Jordan, yeah, this is not going to work for the three of them. And she says that she's already reached out to a realtor to find something more suitable. And at this point, I was like, well, how is this gonna work? Megan's lifestyle is clearly different. I'm sure her taste is different than Jordan's. I'm sure she can afford way more than what Jordan can. Are they gonna like split the house in half? How is this gonna go, right? And remember, I said in a previous review, Jordan, please don't be the type to come into her life and say, oh, I can't afford this, so you shouldn't get this. And Megan, you know that y'all's financial situation is not the same. Don't try to have this man living above what he can afford, right? So I was really excited to see how the house hunting process was going to go with these two. But for now, they share a very sweet moment. And I was like, you know what? It definitely looks like they were growing closer together at this point. So next we see Allie and Anton. They're spending more time together, which is hard since they both work nights. So we see them chatting about their work days and they start to cook dinner together, which I thought was really cute. So we see Allie have to tell Anton that he needs to wash his produce before cutting and eating it. Like, you didn't know that, sir? Absolutely gross. Then we see them accusing each other of being passive aggressive, but he calls her grumpy for telling him to wash his produce. And I'm like, child, if he thinks that that's grumpy, that means that this man just doesn't want to be told anything, because her tone was very sweet. She's telling you something that's for your own good, and you said that she's being grumpy. Okay, anyway, so they have mimosas, and Allie clearly isn't super excited at the thought of this being a nightly custom since she has to get rest before her overnight shift. And this is something that Anton pretty much says that he'd like to do every time when they get to spend some time together at home. She says, look, I usually get off work, I go to the gym, and then I hit the bed. And after both of them make a few more passive aggressive comments towards each other, we see Allie and Anton discussing cooking and chores in the house. And Allie asks him if for whatever reason, both of them are too tired to cook, can their private chef take over, right? And since this is the second comment that she's made to Anton, well, at least the second comment that we've seen, he's like, whoo, I'm going to have to pick up an extra shift of work. And Allie thinks that that's the cutest thing. So from the 10K ring to this comment, right? And let me clarify also about the 10K ring, because I did say that I agree with that in my last review. Allie shouldn't be getting a 10K ring on this show in an experience like this. I meant if she was on the outside and she was dating a man and she found a man who could afford it. I didn't mean for Love is Blind. No, don't get nobody no 10K ring on this show. But at this point, I was like, we need to see the conversations in the pods that these two had regarding finances, because is Allie just saying these things in a passive aggressive way to get Anton to talk about finances? Did they already have the conversation and production just isn't showing it to us so that they can paint a picture about Allie and Anton? Like, what's going on, right? But we see Allie tell him that she's going back to school, and the last semester that she was in school, she didn't have to do anything. She didn't work. She didn't clean. Her mom took care of everything, and she doesn't want to work while she's in school this semester. And Anton says, yeah, I make enough to support the both of us while you're in school. And she's like, perfect. Can you pay for my Botox as well? And that's why I'm like, listen, did he promise you a particular lifestyle in the pods? Because that will determine how I feel about these conversations. Because if he was in the pods talking big bank, I have no issue with the comments that Allie has been making. If she's pulling your card, if she's calling your bluff on the promises that you made and we just haven't seen them, baby, I have no issue with it. Pull the cards. Pull the cards, okay? So next we see them discuss bank accounts, and apparently the original conversation, they agreed that they would just have joint accounts, but now Allie is saying that she prefers to have joint accounts and separate accounts because maybe she doesn't want him to know how much she spends on her Botox, right? And I'm definitely team joint and separate. But we see Anton quickly switch the conversation to wearing matching sweaters. And I'm like, hold on, let's stay on this conversation. We need to see the rest of it. But Allie says that she feels that Anton is acting weird. And she's like, you promised that you would always be honest and transparent with me, but now you're not doing that. Then we also see her point out again that he doesn't close his eyes when they kiss. And I'm just like, after all of this, baby, it's not looking too good for you two. It's not looking good for you two at all right, so the weddings are now 19 days away, and we see Edmond's mom, Carrie, come over, and her and Calibria share a very warm welcome. They have that, Love is Blind conversation. Why'd you pick my son? Why'd you pick my daughter? Edmond's mom actually asks Calibria what coconut hit her in the head and made her pick him, right? But she shares that she just loves his vulnerability, and Carrie says, yeah, it's because he's seen a lot in life. And Calibria says that her job also helps her to relate to him, listen to him, and make him feel comfortable to share his feelings, right? And Carrie says, look, although I know that he hasn't opened up with me 100%, it just really comforts me knowing that he now has someone who he can do that with. Then we see her give Calibria with some beads, and she says that she gives them to all of her daughter-in-laws, and she says that Edmond will be the one to put the beads on her. And that kind of made me raise an eyebrow. I was like, okay, I guess I understand that. Maybe it's some type of ritual type thing, but how do you know that Calibria is comfortable with that? We didn't see her ask her at all. Okay. And then Carrie says, and you will be going to Ghana with me. And I was like, oh, well, is that a question? Because it sounds like a command, right? That's what it was sounding like. But after that, they pray, they start eating their breakfast. And then Carrie tells her again that she will be going to Ghana and she will be teaching their grandkids how to eat with their hands. Okay. And the fact that KB gave this no pushback at all. The fact that KB gave this zero pushback and she just got up and left so that Edmond can chat with his mom had me cracking up. But it also let me know that KB was like, girl, I'm not even going to go back and forth with you because my children will not be your grandchildren. So this isn't even worth a conversation, all right? But when Carrie is alone with Edmond, we see her telling him that in the past, he's always picked really nice girls. And although it's time for him to finally get married, at first she wasn't sure about KB because her and Auntie looked through KB's Instagram and they were not impressed. They were not feeling her. But she says now meeting KB in person, she actually does like her, right? And then we see Edmond's mom. She gets emotional and she says that overall, she thinks that KB would be a great fit for Edmond and she thinks that Edmond is ready to take that next step. Then she starts talking baby, baby, baby. She had a dream about a baby, or her sister called her about a dream about a baby. And at this point, I was like, oh, she just wants some grandbabies. She just wants some grandbabies. grandbabies, and at this point, any uterus will do, okay? But when we see KB return, she says that she feels like KB is the type of daughter-in-law who can be straight up with her and vice versa. And she says that her other daughter-in-laws are not like that. And I'm like, I would love for KB, if she was really going to be in this relationship, I would have loved to see her have a chat with the other daughter-in-laws so that we can get a true idea of how you are as a mother-in-law. Because I don't know. You make a lot of demands and you don't ask many questions, okay? But Calibria agrees that everything doesn't have to go back to Edmond should her and Miss Carrie have a conversation, right? Overall, though, the meeting goes well, and I'm just hoping that Mama Carrie isn't one of those mother-in-laws who's going to be pressuring KB to have kids should they stay together. And I also need to see if Edmond is going to be able to stand up to his mom. That's another form of protection. Because, baby, if Edmond decides that he wants to have no backbone in all situations, oh, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Forget that he won't protect you in an unpreventable situation outside. If he can't even protect you when coming to his mama, if necessary, oh, baby, that's a problem. If they do stay together and they have kids and KB says, hey, babe, I don't want your mom teaching the kids how to eat with their hands. I'd prefer them eat with utensils. Can you tell her to stop? Is that a conversation that Edmond will be able to have? Or is it not, right? Or does he handle all conflict in the same way? Whether it's you, whether it's his mom, or even his children, right? Something to think about. Anyway, moving on, we see Madison and Joe. They're at Joe's place, and he's apologizing in his confessional and to Madison for pretty much damn near the same thing that he had to apologize for in Baja. I'm sorry for not communicating properly. I'll promise to make more of an effort to be there for you and to listen more. I'm gonna pay more attention. I didn't mean to come off that way, blah, blah, blah. And Madison is happy with the words and the cuddles that she got from Joe this morning. All we see Madison talk about is, oh my God, we had sexy time. Oh my God, we cuddled. Like that's all she needs. And she's over the moon. And I hate that for her. I hate that for her. But we do see her put her ring back on because when they had their little argument the night before, she had took her ring off. She reiterates to Joe that she's 100% sure about this. Joe lies and says that he is as well. And Madison, I'm going to tell you this. Joe is full of shit, okay? Joe also knows that he is full of shit. He knows. He's fully aware that he's shitting you right now. And that's why he's so scared and he's so confused, because deep down, he knows that you shouldn't be head over heels for him the way that you are. Because he knows that they know when they ain't shit. Okay? He knows. And he knows that he's been misbehaving. And you still want to be with him, right? So at this point, Joe is like, is she okay? Is she good? How is she not seeing how trash I am, right? But we see Joe give her a tour of his studio apartment. It's clean, it's quaint, but the same thing that I asked pertaining to Jordan. What about your current situation made you look around and say, you know what? I want to bring a wife into this. Well, we already know the answer for Joe, right? Let's say it together. His lease is about to be up and he needs a place to stay, okay? He is a hobosexual. Thank you. So next we see Jordan meeting Megan's mom and sister, and today also happens to be the 4th anniversary of her dad passing. So this is a huge moment for her and her family, and she feels like her dad is there with them. So Megan's mom and sister, I have to say, they are so bubbly, really bubbly. Megan's mom is loving Jordan's tats, and we see the entire table get emotional when Megan reveals that Luca also has type 1 diabetes. Girl, I know you wasn't about to say diabetes. Diabetes, okay? Because that is the type that their father had. Child, on top of that, Megan's sister Jessica says that she had a dream where their dad was actually telling her that Megan's husband's son is like me. He's like me. That's how she'll know, right? So that's why they feel like it's fate, because of the type 1 diabetes. So they commend Jordan for getting a vasectomy instead of putting the responsibility of birth control solely on the woman. Round of applause for Jordan. Round of applause for Jordan for that. Okay, we love Jordan for that. But since Luca won't be able to live with them for the time being, Megan says that she won't really get the full idea of what it's like to live with a 5-year-old before the wedding. And I can understand that that is absolutely terrifying. And if Megan turned around and said, hey, I can't marry you without at least a week's trial with having Luca here just to see how things would be, if she felt that way, I 1000% understand. That is a huge life change, right? That is a huge change in your home. So I can understand her not feeling confident moving forward without getting to actually have that time where Luca lives in the home with them for a longer period of time. All right. So they speak on communication being one of their strengths as a couple. And Meg describes a situation that they had that morning where she was very emotional, but she wasn't upfront with Jordan. And she has to learn and know that he's not a mind reader and she has to communicate better with him. And she acknowledges that Jordan too is stressed out. He can't be with Luca as much as he would like to be because of filming, right? So she understands that he might not respond in the best way at times as well. And Megan explains that in the past, she would usually withhold her feelings out of fear that her partner would leave her. So Megan has an awareness in regards to the part that she plays in their lack of communication. But Megan, you're going to have to go see the lady for that because it is not Jordan's job to regulate your emotions for you. You a big girl, okay? You got to do that all on your own. Of course, we don't want anyone to be in relationships where someone is neglecting their feelings or being dismissive, but we have seen how Megan has navigated conversations with him before, and I think that the both of them could definitely benefit from some outside help in the communication department, okay? Because Jordan, you be lying. Yeah, okay, but we do see Megan's mom and sis give Jordan their blessing before he even asked for it, which I thought was really cute. But Mom and Jessica are fully on board and they're really excited. They obviously already feel connected to Jordan because of the dream that Jessica had. And on top of that, Megan's dad had always told his daughters that when he saw his wife, their mom, it was love at first sight. So this experience being such a short span of time makes no difference to them at all. Mom and sis love Jordan and they're here for all of it, all right? So next we see Nick take Annie to his home in the mountains and she loves it. And Nick says that he can visualize him and Annie raising a family there. We see Nick ask if the vibe is too masculine and Annie's like, no, it's perfect. He has a man cave with skis and his bikes and his cars and his medals. And he says that he's a size queen and he loves a big sale. Nick cracks me up. I'm like, okay, Nick, are you trolling us at this point? Because like, it's cracking me up, okay? But I do love his little man cave. That's his spot, as you can see, and I love that for him. And Annie sees it too because she feels bad for even asking him to move from this place to be with her. But Nick tells us that his home in the mountains is a non-negotiable, and he brought her here to see if Annie would be open to living there with him and traveling back to her salon, which is an hour away in Denver, on days that she needs to be with clients. But Annie tells Nick that since he works from home, he can stay at her apartment, which is in a great location. And I do think that that would be a better compromise, right? Because Annie can't bring her salon up in the mountains or ask her clients to come all the way to the mountains an hour away, whereas Nick can just pick his little laptop up and bring his ass to her place, right? That seems a lot easier. But Annie is adamant that she can't leave Denver now, and Nick reassures her that he is not asking her to do it. And the way that Nick is, it seems like he's like, hey, I'm not asking you to pick up your life. I totally understand if you don't want to do that because I'm not about to do it either. I'm not about to do it either. Let's work on a different type of compromise that works for the both of us, okay? So they discuss different possibilities for their living arrangements. Maybe we can get another place, right? Maybe I can come on these days and you come on these days, but nothing is set in stone yet. But what we do know is that Nick ain't selling his place and Annie ain't moving up in the mountains. But I do like that neither of them are giving each other ultimatums, and they both seem to fully understand why the other wouldn't want to uproot their life and leave. We'll see how this goes, okay? So next we see Madison meet Joe's parents, two sisters, and his mom's ex-husband. I had to rewind that because I'm like, her ex? Why is the ex? I guess he watched Joe grow up as well, so he's a father figure in Joe's life, and Joe wanted him to be there. Okay, answered my own question. And after the warm welcome is done, they share a toast, and then Joe and Madison speak about how amazing this process has been going for the both of them, and how they were able to learn so much about each other in such a short space of time. And Madison lets them know that she's ready to take the next step with him because she has a career and she owns her home. She just needs someone to share her life with, and she says that she is ready to be a good wife for Joe. And Madison makes a great impression on Joe's family, okay? She was just laying it all out. I was like, you better get it, girl, okay? And she lets them know that she loves him I believe her. His family believes her. And Joe tells us that this meeting with the family felt great. And in his confessional, he says that he actually feels closer to Madison now. And this reminded him of why he fell in love with her in the first place. And I'm just looking at him like, you are so full of shit, Joe. She did her thing at the meeting. Like, I'm sure that his feelings for her did grow just seeing how she just handled everything. I'm sure he was like, ooh, right? Oh, well, shit, do I like her? But they did keep it real cute for the family. We didn't see them discuss any of their fights, any of their arguments, Joe acting like a damn fool, none of that, okay? So next we see Allie meeting Anton's friends, and I was like, friends, why not family? Interesting, okay? Whenever people don't bring their family, I'm already like, you're not in this for real. You're not, okay? And these friends have no issue with it at all because they was like, well, shit, we only been together for 4 months and we moved in together only after our first date. Baby, I started cracking up. I was like, I know that's right. Live your life, okay? But Allie lets them know that she doesn't love Denver at all, but her and Anton both prefer to live in Florida eventually. And Allie lets it be known that she doesn't like the party scene in Denver at all. She doesn't like drinking, but these are clearly things that Anton does enjoy, right? And I don't think that he's quite ready to give that up just yet. So we see the ladies leave and they let the guys talk. And Anton says that he loved her even before he knew that she was a baddie. And he says, look, if Allie says yes at the altar, I'll be the happiest man alive. But baby, meanwhile in the bathroom, the 4-month girlfriend is telling Allie that she never envisioned Anton getting married before this because both Anton and John, that's the friend upstairs, used to party and drink all the time. But apparently when Anton was pillow talking with Allie, telling all of Joe's business, he casually left out that he would be on the scene as well, right? So Anton would be like, yeah, my friend Joe, you know, he be partying, he be going to the strip club, he be drinking, blah, blah, blah. But he forgot to add that he be right by Joe's side with all the shenanigans, okay? So now Allie is pissed because she's realizing, maybe Anton isn't ready to settle down the way that he's been leading me on to believe since he had such a wild lifestyle not too long ago. So when she gets back to the table, she lets Anton know that they have some things to discuss and that he is in big trouble, okay? But listen, I definitely believe Mrs. 4 months. I believe everything that she's saying. And I believe that Anton was telling Allie that it was his friend doing all of these things just so that he could gauge what her response would be to it. And that's why he never admitted to also being there and being a partier, because he could tell from her response that that is not the type of man that she wants in a partner, okay? So now we're on to episode 9 and we get clips from all of the couples. We see Jordan making a protein shake. I'm not even gonna call it a protein shake. We see Jordan making a concoction and it consists of baked chicken breasts, right? Crystal Light and some water. Baby, he blended that up. He gagged. Meg gagged, I gagged, we all gagged. It was disgusting. Why are you drinking this? Why are you torturing yourself like this? I was surprised that Meg even tried it. I don't know why he doesn't just get him some protein powder. Why would you put yourself through this on a daily basis, Jordan? Why would you do something like that? Absolutely disgusting. Okay, next we see that Allie is annoyed because apparently her and Anton have been eating and drinking pizza and champagne damn near every day. We know that Allie likes to be in the gym. We know she don't like to party. We know she don't like to drink. So she says, okay? We see Nick helping Annie do some remodeling work at her salon. And we also see that Edmond got KB a pair of skates, which I thought was very sweet. And Meg and Joe are on a little bike ride. All right. So now it is house hunting time for Meg and Jordan. And child, she says that she wants at least 3 bedrooms in an office. And baby, I know y'all saw Jordan's face when Megan turned to that realtor and told her that her price point was 1.5 to 2 mil. I know we all saw Jordan's face and I know we were all cracking up. Y'all know that gif and it's like, it's that guy and he's like, that was Jordan's face, like 1.5, 2 mil where? Who about to pay that? Because it ain't me, right? Now listen, the house is beautiful, but it was out of their price range. And at this point, I was more excited to hear their finance conversation than seeing them tour a home that they ain't gonna get anyway, all right? So when the realtor did give them some privacy, Jordan tells Meg that he doesn't want to be a financial burden to her because he's bringing absolutely nothing to the table. Like I said before, what made you look at your current situation and say, yeah, let me add a wife to this. Yeah, let me bring a wife into this. But at the same time, why are y'all just now discussing crunching the numbers when y'all are already looking at the house? I know it's a show, but the numbers should have been crunched. Why y'all wasting this lady's time? Anyway, I agree that it's too much house for them right now, especially if Jordan can't afford it, which he can't. And Jordan says that he doesn't want to feel like a mooch, but he also doesn't want her to have to downgrade her lifestyle. And he says that he does want to be a provider for her. If y'all don't take y'all asses home and go crunch them numbers for real, do y'all even know each other's credit score? Have y'all looked at each other's accounts? Obviously not. Go home. Wasting these people's time. Anyway, next we see Annie meeting Nick's parents and brother, and Nick's dad's name is Dwayne, which is close to my dad's nickname, so I liked him off the bat. So after Annie frantically ran through all of the things that they have in common and all the things that they love about each other, Nick's mom asks them about how they handle conflict. And Annie is like, we're just so good at all the big stuff. So, the arguments that we have, it's about little things. Like sometimes I'm just being really emotional or passionate and stuff. And if I'm upset and I haven't communicated that to him, he doesn't know, right? So I have to learn to be more open and let him know if there's a certain time that just isn't the best time for us to have that conversation. And as she is talking, Nick's brother is just sitting there. He's like, okay, girl. All right. I guess this is what we're doing. I guess this is what we're doing. All right. And Annie, all of this sounds great, but I'm like, I'm going to need to see this in practice, especially after the shit that you pulled the other night. All right. So Nick's mom says that he's really sensitive and he'll stay quiet in order to avoid conflict, and he won't say what's bothering him. This lady knows her son, and she keeps telling Annie how sensitive Nick is. And I do believe that although we've seen Nick handle Annie's little tantrums with care and respect, and although he was straightforward in telling her that the way that she acted the other night was a no-no, I still feel like Nick is not saying just how on the fence he is with Annie, okay? Especially after the other night. And I also feel like there's some other things going on that his mother had asked him about anyway, right? And that's part of the reason why his brother is pretty quiet in this conversation. That's just the vibe that I get. So mom tells a story of how Nick wanted to stay outside when he was younger, just 3 years old, so that he could look at the beautiful stars. And of course, this story was very touching. It's about her baby boy. And as she's talking, we see Nick taking these big gulps. And I was like, oh boy, are you worried that she's going to say a bit too much, Nikki? Before Annie can even leave the table fully, we see Nick's dad telling Nick that he loves her, he's singing her praises, and he thinks that she would be a great fit to the family. Nick's mom and brother are also surprised at how much they seem to like her, but of course his mom is worried and she gets emotional because, like most parents, they just want the best for their kid. They want to make sure that their kid is making the right decision. But although Nick pretty much got his entire family's blessing, he still looks very uneasy at the end of the scene. So child, now the weddings are 12 days away and it's time for the mixer, and the pod singles will be joining. We know this always gets kind of messy, okay? We got a whole bunch of unfinished business, especially with these damn triangles and squares that we had this season. So we see Allie telling Anton that he can flirt if he wants to because she's not his mom. And I feel like this was Allie's way of telling Anton that she might be flirting. And at this point, she don't give a damn what she do because she not feeling him anymore after finding out that he goes to the strip club and he be drinking. She doesn't want to say all of that, okay? So we see everyone showing up in their cowboy Carter outfits, and then the guys and girls break off into groups so that they can chat. So on the ladies' side, we see Meg telling all of the girls that the family meetings went really well, and she says that she'll be meeting Luca on Friday off camera, and she totally understands why Luca's mom would want it that way and doesn't want her son on camera. I understand as well. So Allie says that her and Anton have only met friends, no family. I thought that that was very strange. I was like, okay, maybe they only showed us the meeting with the friends because that was like a juicier meeting, but no, they haven't met any family at all. And all the ladies were like, interesting. Then she tells them that she didn't like learning that Anton used to go to strip clubs and she wouldn't want to go to one as a couple either, but she doesn't even like that he went to strip clubs when he was single. And I was like, girl, chill out. That it's not that serious. Okay. Now, I don't know if he was in the strip club every day or every weekend. Now I can understand if he was in the strip club all the time. It's like, sir, are you okay? But if he just went to the strip club with his friend every now and then, and it was before you, I don't see why that should be a huge deal. But again, I don't know how frequently he went there. Now, if she's feeling away because Anton lied and told her that he hasn't been to a strip club in over a year, when Lil Miss 4 months said that it was way more recently than just a year, then yeah, I can understand her being upset about that, okay? On top of that, Anton has 2 beers after work every morning, according to Ollie. 2 beers after work every morning because they work the night shift, okay? And she says that she's not feeling that either, and I can definitely agree with that. But ultimately, she says that their lifestyles just don't seem to fit, and she's totally allowed to feel that way. And on the flip side, I think that if Anton wants a wife who he can go to the strip club with and have a drink with at home every single day, he's allowed to want that for himself as well, okay? Y'all just aren't right for each other. So next we see Patrick show up, and he tells the guys about the breakup with Casey and that she told him that she wanted to see him as soon as they got back to Denver. And she also sent him a long text saying that it was because of the show, blah, blah, blah. It had nothing to do with attraction, blah, blah, blah. But like I told y'all in my last review, he hasn't seen her since, and homegirl won't even pick up the phone to speak to him. But she told Patrick to just tell everyone at the mixer that they've broken up for now, but they can still talk. And Nick was like, oh no, she is gaslighting. She is gaslighting you. I said, period, Nick. You better let him know, all right? So the guys are all laughing, and Patrick says that what hurt the most was that Casey couldn't even give it a night, right? Like, she couldn't even spend one night in Baja with me. She dumped me within hours of us doing that whole reveal. And we know that Casey is full of shit, and it had everything to do with her attraction to Patrick, or her lack of attraction to Patrick. But Pat, I also hope that you've done some soul searching as well, and you ask yourself why you even wanted to be with Casey in the first place. Again, someone who told you that her ex is basically waiting at home for her, right? Why would you want to be with someone like that? Then he says that he asked her for the ring back, and she said that she's not giving it back because she's stressed out too, and she's going through this too. I'm going to say this because my opinion has not changed at all from when this came up between Jackie and Marshall. I have the same opinion, and I'm going to always have the same opinion on it. If Patrick paid for that ring, give that man back his motherfucking ring. If he paid $1 towards the ring, give that man back the motherfucking ring, okay? However, if this is a ring that production paid for, keep the ring. Keep the ring and see it as extra payment on top of the pennies that they pay y'all for being on this show while they make millions. Keep it. And that doesn't change my opinion, whether I like the guy and I don't like the girl, or I like the girl, don't like the guy, like the whatever. If the show paid for it, keep it. And I take emotions out of it when coming to this ring thing. And I feel like these shows make so much money. If you are not contractually obligated to give them anything back, don't give it back. And if your partner didn't pay for the ring, don't give it back. Okay. And I feel the same way, whether it's men or women. For example, on Love is Blind UK, I can't remember if it was the season 2 or season 1. I reviewed both, but I remember that some of the women also give the men engagement rings too. And in that situation, I feel the same way. If one of those ladies were to come back after y'all went through a breakup and she's asking for the rings back and she didn't pay for the ring or put anything towards the ring, production paid for the ring and they're not asking for it back, keep your ring, king. Don't give her the ring back either. My opinion on that, when it comes to these rings on these shows where they make all this money, my opinion on that doesn't change if it's a man, if it's a woman. I'm not playing favorites. I don't care about the couple, about the relationship, because at this point, it's all business. We back to being strangers. I didn't know you 3 weeks ago, and I don't know you now. Okay? That's how I feel about it. But like the situation with Jackie and Marshall, I can also see people wanting Casey to pay in some way. It's pretty much the same thing with Jackie and Marshall. People wanted Jackie to pay, and giving the ring back was pretty much the only way that we can see her give some type of retribution, right, for her sins, okay? So they'll be like, no, give the ring back, give the ring back. And I get that too, but I'm seeing it in a black and white way. I'm not seeing it with any emotion. Oh, I like her, she did him wrong. With nothing about that. It's straight business at this point, okay? So next we see Kate arrive, and the guys are like, Nick, Kate is here, go over to her. And Nick is trying to play it cool, but we see Madison bring Kate over to introduce her to the guys, but you know, she really wants her to meet Nick. And I'm like, Madison, keep that same energy if someone was to bring a girl over to your man Joe, okay? But we know that Joe didn't have any other connections. Ain't nobody want Joe but you, girl. But either Kate is really, really tall, or everyone on this cast is super short, because she was towering over all of them. And I know she had on heels, but I'm sure everyone, like all the other ladies, had on heels as well. Kate is really tall. So next we see Anna and Mike. They arrive in town. Megan looked so excited when she saw Mike. Clearly, Jordan felt some type of way because he went right over to her and gave her a kiss. And Jordan was like, I will be damned. I will be damned if Mike thinks that he about to swoop in and steal my cash register from me, baby. We was just looking at a $2 million house. You're not coming in here and messing up what we have going on, okay? Period, Jordan. But Megan lets us know that she doesn't want to disrespect what her and Jordan have built, but she's sure that they're bound to have some chemistry now that her and Mike are seeing each other in person. And baby, Mike came right over to her. He introduced himself. He gave her a hug. He was real smooth with it, okay? So when Brandon arrives, we see Annie telling the ladies that Brandon didn't fight for her. And when he comes over, they share a hug and they're like, hey, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. He doesn't try to have any deeper conversation with her and vice versa. And this confirms for Annie that everything that Brandon was saying was bullshit and she made the right decision in picking Nick. And like I said in the previous reviews, Brandon was completely full of shit and he was irritated every time that they had a conversation. And that's why when he went back to the men's quarters after being dumped and he was sitting there acting all sad and pretending to cry, I didn't feel bad for him because Brandon don't give a damn about no Annie. He don't care, all right? He don't care. So now it's time for them to do a little line dance. And I was really hoping that they were going to dance to Boots on the Ground. But no, they I don't know what they danced to, child. And while that was going on, we see Jordan telling Brandon that him and Annie wouldn't have worked because she's so quirky and Brandon is so smooth. And Jordan says after spending some time with her, he knows that Nick was definitely the better choice for her. So Brandon needs to let it go. And I'm like, let what go, Jordan? Brandon ain't thinking about no Annie. Because from what we see, Brandon just came to that little mixer so that he wouldn't get fined, so that he can get some extra camera time and eat some free chicken wings. Okay, he didn't really want to be there. But did y'all see Meg drop it to the ground in that little line dance? I was like, period, Meg, you better get it. All right. So next we see her and Jordan telling the gang that they're working on blending their families together and things will be easier once they're out of this boot camp style engagement. And we see the cameraman with his messy ass continuing to pan the camera over to Mike as Jordan is speaking. But child, we see that Megan is just over the moon because she's like, yes, team sparkles and tats, team sparkles and tats. Okay, girl. So next we see Mike ask Jordan if he can pull Meg for a little chat. And as they're walking away, Mike asks Megan if she wants to dance. And see, from there, I wouldn't even want to have the conversation if I was Meg, because now you're trying to be cute, right? You're trying to be funny. You're trying to cause problems, because why the would she want to dance with you right here, right now? That's why I call your ass Messy Mike, because you messy as hell, okay? So Meg says that she's living the engaged life, and it's a lot, but in a good way. We see them share some jokes about him originally thinking that her whole sparkle vibe would be tacky. We see him apologize for making her cry and leaving her on one of their pod dates early. And she says that he made her wonder if that's how he would handle situations in the real world. If she was upset, would he leave her there, right? But you were so busy trying to test her, right, Mike? Is that something that you learned on one of those bullshit podcasts? Did you learn that they're like, oh, you got to test your girl, you know, and when she's crying, right, and she needs you the most, leave her. Yeah, that gives you the power. Yeah, bro, high five, high five. But you see what you got, Mike? You got dumped. You got dumped, okay? And do you see what you could have had? Because I heard that you a scammer, allegedly, right? I'm sure that he would have loved to kick his feet up and live in that $2 million home, all on Megan's dime. I'm sure he wouldn't have had a problem with it. But you wanted to give out tests. That's what you get, okay? So then he notices that Megan doesn't have the emerald cut ring that she wanted. And she says, yeah, she was told that there were none to choose from. And he says, well, I would have made it happen and I had already picked it out for you, right? And Megan's like, oh my God, really? He also says that he had to refrain from DMing her as soon as he got his phone back. And Megan's like, thank you for that. And the fact that she said, thank you for that definitely leads me to believe that she's like, thank God you ain't DM me, because baby, if you did, I would have been on it. I would have been on it. Okay, that's the vibe that I got. But props to you, Mike, because if I had to bet, I would have lost my money on that one, because I definitely would have bet that you would be the type to be a little sleazeball and slide up in her DMs, okay? But he does say that he didn't want to be his usual cocky self, and Meg lets him know that it ultimately boiled down to her being able to feel like she can trust her partner and trust that they wouldn't cheat while she's away on business trips, because that's what her exes did. And remember, Megan said that Mike reminds her of her exes, okay? But she also tells Mike that he checks all of her other boxes as far as traveling and finances, and she thinks that they would fit together very well, and she loves that. And I was like, girl, you're speaking in a lot of present tense right now. Usually at these mixers, people are like, yeah, we connected in the pods. And I thought we would have been great together, right? But I feel like Meg is speaking in present tense and she's showing Mike that the door is still wide open for him just in case he wants to step in. But when Mike asks her if she thinks she made a mistake, she gives a very hesitant no. And she starts talking about how much her family loves Jordan and blah, blah, blah. But she does say that she's fully in this and she knows that she is getting married to Jordan. And I said, you know what? I'm sure that if this entire situation was flipped, right? And if Jordan said the same exact things in the same exact way that Meg is saying to Mike, to his other connection, if he had one, and Megan was able to be a fly on the wall, she would be in tears. She would be in tears because we've seen her cry for way less. Megan definitely didn't seem confident in her connection with Jordan while having this conversation with Mike. She says that she is, but the way that she was answering these questions, it's giving that she's not. Okay, so next we see Ann and Patrick. They finally sit down to have their chat, and we see him telling her that she was his number one and they would have went all the way. And Ann tells him that she feels really bad for the way that she left and she walked out because it was a struggle, but she does wish that she gave this experience more of a chance. But when she heard that he got engaged, she was like, oh, okay, Pat is fine, right? I didn't do too bad because he got engaged, so clearly he had another connection. But also she's like, how could you say that you had such strong feelings for me, but then you turned around and you got engaged to someone else? And I said, great question, Ann, great question. On one note though, little sis, you left, okay? You left, you didn't say anything to anyone. So I'm not faulting Patrick for like not running behind you. Like, did you expect him to leave too? Y'all didn't even share a last conversation. Like, I'm not sure what you were expecting. But Pat says that Casey was a distant second choice. And he says that he only picked her because Ann left. And that is exactly why, as bad as Casey did Patrick, and as much of a liar that she is, I've been told y'all in my previous review that I didn't really feel bad for Patrick because he knew that he didn't love no damn Casey. He knew that he should have never proposed to her. He knew that he should have never left the pods with her. But Patrick said he on Love is Blind and he gonna leave with somebody. He don't care, okay? That entire conversation that they had when he proposed, I said it was fake as hell on both ends. They both looked and sounded like actors. But in this conversation, Patrick keeps trying to distance himself from Casey. And Ann is like, yeah, but you proposed to her, right? So you can't say that you weren't feeling her. You can't say that you didn't have strong feelings for her because you proposed to her. Even though I left, you still proposed to her. And Patrick's like, yeah, but I only proposed to her because you left. As if he had no other choice. As if he couldn't just go home, right? Since after all, Casey was such a distant second choice, right? In my opinion, Patrick pretty much just exposed himself that he would have proposed to anyone. And if he had a third distant connection, right, and Casey dumped him in the pods, he would have proposed to that third connection. It don't matter. That's why I like Patrick. He's cool, but he wasn't in love with any of these people, okay? And I do like that Ann held his feet to the fire for a little bit because Pat was trying to act like he's just a victim in this situation. And, you know, everything just happened to him and he played no part, right? And he had the absolute purest intentions, right? That's not the case, okay? But she says that she also had a second option, but she only said those words, I love you, to Patrick. She didn't say that to anyone else. And this is something that she has to make clear because Pat is like, well, see, you had two options too, right? It wasn't just me. But remember how he downplayed his connection to Ann when she left, right? And he was in his confessional and he's like, oh yeah, me and Casey, we have a way better connection, right? She's actually the woman who I was really connected to and we're just so intertwined and she just checks all my boxes. Remember, production had to ask him what he has in common with Casey and he couldn't even say it. Even production knew that Pat was on some bullshit, right? I'm like, okay, Patrick, whatever. But I'm telling y'all that I'm having deja vu with this whole Jackie and Marshall situation when coming to Patrick and Casey and Ann, okay? Patrick ain't as sweet and innocent as y'all think. I like him, but Patrick ain't like completely innocent in this, okay? But he does claim that Ann knows him more than anyone else here, but he understands that she had to choose her family over the experience. And he claims that he would have proposed, but he thinks that Ann would have said no at the altar. And Ann says that she doesn't know what she would say. And I kind of feel like if Ann was down for them to like rekindle something for the cameras, Patrick would be fully on board because we know that that's all he wants. We know that Patrick wants that extra camera time as well. But I am happy that Ann went home after seeing how he just tried his best to come off as the victim in that conversation. But I also feel like Ann is not being straight up about why she left. I feel like her leaving was less about her family and more about her, one, usually dating white men, or feeling insecure about Patrick usually dating white women, okay? But imagine if both of y'all went to see the lady before coming here. This could have been a beautiful love story, but that's not what happened. Ciao. Next we get Calibria doing the absolute most, okay? So Annie tells Edmond that Nick is perfect, and Edmond is like, wow, that would be nice to hear. I wish that my partner said that about me. And Calibria was like, what? What did you say? Are you comparing our relationship again? And even Nick tries to jump in and help, and he's like, no, that's not how he meant it. He's just saying that. And she's like, no. And she's like, no. KB took it as Edmund saying that she's not doing enough. And she gets very upset. And I was cringing because, first of all, we don't argue in public, girl. We don't ever do that. Ever. Okay, girl, y'all could have did this back at the apartment, all right? Now, I understand KB's frustration because she's probably like, boy, I have been here patient as fuck with you, right? With all of your little quirks, and I've been embracing your vulnerability. But you here saying that you wish that I did this and you wish that I said that, and you're bringing it up here, I can understand that frustration. But I still don't think that this energy that she was giving was warranted at all. Because personally, I don't think that Edmund was trying to be malicious when he made that comment. But then again, we do know that he'll cry for some coochie. So who knows? Maybe he was just being a bit passive aggressive when he made that. But honestly, I don't think that he was in this moment. And Edmund clearly doesn't want to have this conversation here either. He's like, okay, we can talk about it later. But as far as KB is concerned, he made the comment here. He wasn't joking. So we're going to talk about it right here. And she's like, well, what else do you want to lay out since you want to talk about everything right now? And Edmund tells her that he doesn't feel like he gets much positive reinforcement from KB. KB feels like she's been cheering Edmund on this entire time. And now he's trying to start mess with her, right? She says that he's being weird and she walks away. And even when he goes back to speak to her, he's like, I love you. And this makes her even more upset because she feels like he's not answering her questions. He's not trying to have a real conversation. He's just saying, I love you. And people do that in order to end a conversation. We just saw Annie doing that with Nick, right? Nothing gets resolved here. Edmund goes back to the group and he's saying, oh my gosh, I might die. Now, joking or not, I don't play that. I don't like people talking about death over like breakups and arguments. I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's funny. I don't like that. But we do see everyone trying to calm him down, right? Now, like I said before, I can understand Calibria being upset and taking Edmund's comment as passive aggressiveness, but I also feel like her reaction was completely unwarranted. It was way too much. And I do feel like it's a result of her being nonchalant about everything that he does when she knows that she's not feeling him. So now everything that he does and says is going to be annoying to her. But I will say the way that Calibria spoke to Edmund in this conversation shows that she does not respect him at all. She doesn't respect him at all. She was talking to him like he was a little kid. And I'm sure that part of it, a huge part of it, is due to that lack of protection conversation that they had and everything in between. And a side note, talking about protection, did y'all see how Serena Williams' husband, what's his name, Alexis, checked Stephen A. Smith with his words for talking crazy about his wife and his marriage? That is a recent and beautiful example of a man stepping to another man and protecting his wife and his marriage, okay? Because apparently someone was confused and thought that I meant that protection solely means that Edmund is going to be out and about fighting people and kicking people, even though I said that one of the ways that he could offer protection is just by speaking up for Calibria, right? But he said he ain't doing none of it. He ain't whooping ass for you, and he's not speaking up for you. I don't know anything about that because, unfortunately, some men don't give a damn when you say no. Some men only respect when they're checked by another man, unfortunately. So in that situation, I would hope that you are with a man who will speak up for you. And what Alexis did with Stephen A. Smith, had his ass stuttering and stammering. That's how a man checks another man when he comes for his wife. And like the comment that I pinned in my last review said, no woman wants their man to just be out here fighting and acting crazy, but you would like to know, right, that God forbid y'all are in some type of situation, he'll be by your side and he won't be rollerblading away, right? On top of that, Edmond wants kids. So you won't protect your wife by just speaking up for her in a situation where she's being disrespected or she's in danger, but you would want her to risk her life and grow an entire human for you? That's what you would want? And she can't look to you for any type of protection when she'll be in her most vulnerable state? Get the entire out of here. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it, okay? That conversation alone just makes me think of all of the other possibilities and scenarios where Edmond is gonna be like, yeah, no, I'm not, I ain't doing nothing, I ain't saying nothing, and I'm not here for it, okay? But Calibria, if you wanted to break up with Edmond, I wish that you did it in a way that didn't make you look like such a bad guy, but child, we see the previews for next week, and they still gonna be rocking and rolling. But like I said before, I do not like how Calibria had this conversation at all, okay? So anyway, next we see Nick apologizing to Kate because he says that he wasn't able to properly communicate him loving two people at once, and he admits that he should have worded it correctly to both ladies, and he also says that he should have been more direct because remember, he did tell Kate that he loved her first, and we see Kate reiterate what she said in the pods. She says that she felt disregarded by him rescinding his I love you so quickly, but like Patrick and Casey, I felt the same way about Nick and Annie initially, right? That whole proposal conversation was fake on both ends. And she says that Nick said that he could never get to a point of engagement with Annie. And I said, oh, interesting. So when she saw that he got engaged to Annie, she was pissed. But Nick says that he never said that to Kate, but Kate insists, yes, you did say that. But Nick is understanding, and he says that it was just a hard situation to navigate, but Annie reciprocated his feelings more than Kate did. He also says that he wasn't honest during the breakup and he hates himself for it. And he even told Annie that he told Kate that he loves her. And Annie was like, oh, you did. And Nick says, yeah, I did. And I'm like, did he? Did we not see that? Did he say it? Did we see it? And I just can't remember. Let me know. But Nick asks if they can be cordial or friends. They don't got to be buddy-buddy, but he just wants things to be cool between them. And they do end it on a good note. And I feel like Nick did a great job in this conversation. He was extremely apologetic from the very beginning. Kate didn't have to ask him for an apology. And I feel like there wasn't really much that she could argue with or say back because he just put all his cards on the table, right? So meanwhile, we see Annie telling Allie and Madison that Nick didn't love bomb Kate, but apparently that's what Kate has been telling the girls. And like I said in my previous review, I completely understand Kate feeling like Nick love bombed her. But like I've also been saying after watching all of these shows, these are expedited. It's pretty much speed dating, right? So in a sense, everyone is love bombing. You kind of have to love bomb in these experiences, right? But I do get Kate feeling like, what the hell? You just said that you loved me yesterday, okay? So at this point, I was like, hold on, wait. Did Nick really not tell Annie that he said I love you to Kate? Because when he came back from riding his bull, honey, Annie was upset with him. But then again, it's Annie, so I don't know, child. She can be upset about anything. Then we see then we see Joe and Jordan, and they're making jokes about if Nick or Brandon would be better in bed with Annie, okay? But we only hear like the voices. We don't see their lips moving the entire time. So I was like, was some of this added in post-production or what, okay? But we then get a confessional from Joe where he's being really weird. He's being his weird self, and he says that he don't F with Nick. He's like, I don't F with him, and there's clearly something else on the tip of his tongue, but he's like, I don't want to say it. I don't know, but I just don't F with him, okay? We also see Kate telling Madison that no one F's with Nick and that he's fake, and I'm like, ooh, okay, so what y'all picking up on? I want to know. Then we see some chit chat from everyone. We see that Madison and Kate think that it's so cute and so hot that Joe, the hobosexual, told Madison that he wants to get her pregnant. And I said, ew, what's cute about that? What's hot about that? He told you that he wants to trap you, baby. He told you that he wants to trap you. You better wake your ass up because he can barely afford himself. How the hell can he afford a damn baby? And he has no self-awareness. He has you on edge all the damn time. Why does him saying that he wants to impregnate you make you happy, girl? That should terrify you, Madison. Child, then we see Joe is about to be drunk again because people are offering him shots. And he's like, oh, this is how I got in trouble the first time. And he about to do it again. Next, we see Anton pretty much telling Allie, well, he's asking her, how have you been, having your conversations with everyone? I've been telling everyone that everything's all good. What have you been saying? She says, I've been telling everyone the truth. I said, ooh. I said, ooh. And then we see that KB still doesn't want to talk to Edmond. So he's sitting all alone for the rest of the night. And child, that's the end of episode 9. Listen, we saw the previews for the follow-up episodes. I'm excited for the previews. It looks like shit is going to hit the fan, okay? Tell me your thoughts on these 2 episodes. How do you feel about the Anne and Patrick conversation? How do you feel about the house hunting with Megan and Jordan? Tell me all of your thoughts. How do you feel about the little family meetup with Nick's family? Everything down below. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe before you leave. Hit the notification bell so that you're made aware when I post a new video. Hype the video up, and I cannot wait to chat with y'all in the comments. See y'all in the next video. Bye!
Roxiie says we're gonna talk about it.